I started with national drug awareness back in 2016, where I had the opportunity to speak to Brisbane Broncos in the NRL of all things. Nervous as all heck, fronted up, all the top players and coaching staff were there. Did my very best in trying to provide that positive drug message. Next thing you know, NRL are calling me from Sydney saying, "We've heard you're pretty good. Can you come down and speak to us in Sydney?" Speak to a couple of other clubs, spoke to them with the executive present, liked what they saw, and before I knew it, I was speaking across the entire NRL culture, both in terms of all the top line clubs from Townsville, North Queensland Cowboys to Auckland Warriors, every club in between, NRL executive, Referees Association, Queensland Rugby League, New South Wales Rugby League, and from there the message started to get further afield. I guess word of mouth came out and other sporting cultures were starting to call me to say, "Can you come and speak across our culture, because we've heard you're pretty good and your message is pretty important." So when I walk into a school or my presentations, I come with a law enforcement background, but I don't walk in as a copper. I walk in with a person with a high level of drug education. I feel the education hits the right mark. I certainly don't believe that we're going to arrest our way out of the problem across Australia. So I feel that education is the pillar of how we can move forward to take children through challenges. My sessions, when I attend schools and speak to the students, run for sort of between the 45-minute to hour and 15 mark, generally around about the hour mark with maybe 5 or 10 minutes worth of question and answers at the very end. I speak across Australia and I speak overseas. Currently in our environment with COVID restrictions, I use a lot of Zoom to various schools, so quite happy and willing to travel as I do across Australia and speak to a variety of schools. The presentations tend to focus on strategies that you can use to help manage those situations where your children will be involved in parties, safe partying techniques, where they can remove that threat of misuse of alcohol from the environment. One of the points I like to raise when I speak is to provide the audience with a clear decision on how they can make their own choices. Clearly I'm not saying do drugs, and I'm clearly saying there are consequences if you do drugs. The value of the education that National Drug Awareness provides is that we provide the audience with a clear picture of the environment that they're walking across if they choose to use drugs. And so they can then make their own decision based on their own knowledge and not let somebody else make the decision for them. I think that's very important, to acknowledge that at least they make their own decisions, they're accountable for their own decisions, rather than peer pressure and outside persons making the decisions for them. So in taking into consideration that most adolescent youth aren't involved in drug use, it's relevant though to recall and remember that there's a much greater chance that adolescent youth will be involved in the misuse of alcohol. More than 33% of youth will be involved in some sort of misuse of alcohol during those teenage years. What do the kids ask most about when I do attend the schools and speak to them? I guess the most prevalent question would be, why isn't cannabis legalised in Australia when so many other countries are legalising it? And what's the difference between recreational cannabis and medicinal cannabis? What's the number one question that parents ask me in questions and answers time at parent evenings? It'd have to be, what's my view on pill testing, which is a very, very topical subject across Australia, especially with, in these days, the summer party season coming up and music festivals. So quite often I get called on to address what my views are towards pill testing and the government's policies, etc.